Hey, we back. I'm here on Karuta once again, and today we're talking about visits. Visits in of themselves are not too complicated, just a few buttons, options, and optimizations that we will be talking about. The complicated bit about visits is the outcome of those options, which are extensive, and we will also mention in this video today. Hopefully, I go over everything that you need to know to get you started, at least on visits and the affection system in general. There's a fair bit of information here, so let's get started. We will start with the obvious command, which is kvi or kvisit, and this is going to let you visit a card. If you just put kvi, it'll default to the person that you are currently visiting. For me, this is Miano, but if you have another card, so for example, well, I could just put kc and I could grab one of these random ones, put kvi and then that card code, and then I can visit this character. As it says, I'm currently visiting Miano. I can switch which character I'm visiting once every 2 hours, and that cooldown is on your reminders here, so you can check with that. But it's also worth mentioning that when you visit a character, you are indeed visiting that character, not that card. You visit the character through the card. So if you have two cards of the same character, you visit both of them and it counts as the same thing. As you can see, we have a few buttons here, we've got a few stats, etc, etc. So I'm going to go through them quickly. We have affection rating. This is just kind of a measure of like how close to the character you are. This goes up and down depending on your ability to do stuff with these actions here. It starts at 0, it has a maximum of, I believe, 200, and it has a couple of levels as it goes up. So once you hit 20, you get to friendly, and then once you get to 80, you get enamored. Once you do get to 80, there's a little limit there where you have to do the date minigame, but we'll get to that in a minute. Next, we have affection points. These only go up. You get them for, again, doing actions, and then you spend them on doing other actions. So mainly you get them through talking, but you can also get them through dates and such, and then you spend them on the actions menu here. Finally, we have energy. You will have 5 energy. I believe if you propose, it goes up to 10. But yep, you have 5 energy by default, and you get 1 energy per hour. Energy is just used to do actions, pretty much. It's another currency the same as affection points in that sense, but it's some actions will require affection points, some require energy, and of course energy refills by itself. Here, in order to actually do these things, we're going to go over the 3 buttons. I'm going to press the talk button, and there we go. It's going to give me a bit of a question here. These are set questions, not based on a particular character. They're just questions that will pop up for any character, but the way that it works is in order to get the points, you have to pick the same answer that the majority of people picked for that character. So here, for example, we have 3 options. If I pick the one that most people picked as an answer to this question for Miano, I will get 3 affection rating. If I pick the least picked, I will lose 3 affection rating, and if I pick the middle one, I will stay in the middle. So here we have the question: compared to other characters from the series you know me from, how romantic am I? I'm actually not really sure how to answer that question. I'm going to go for middle of the ground, which is fairly romantic. I actually got it right, so there you go. My affection rating has gone up by 3 points. You will also notice that my affection points went up by 3 points. So that does the same thing. We can go for another talk, and I'm going to get another question. Compared to other characters from the series you know me from, how evil am I? I'm going to say not evil at all, because I don't think she is. And there we go. We got some more points. So I'm clearly good at knowing what to do with Miano. We can go for a third one here. I'm kind of hoping I get one wrong, but I don't want to deliberately get one wrong. That would be awful. We go fishing someday. What sea creature would you like to reel in the most? Oh yeah, see, this question doesn't really make any sense for the anime in particular as far as I'm aware, so let's go for a squid, shall we? Oh, I got that one right as well. I'm just too good at talking today, apparently. Well, we'll leave that here. Trust me, okay, if you get the question wrong, you lose 3 points. What can I say? But yeah, so we have some other actions. If I go into the actions menu, we have a couple of options here. First, I can spend 2 of my affection points to gain 2 affection rating. Of course, these are 2 separate currencies, so it just converts one to the other as a direct ratio. Then we have hug, which only costs 3 and potentially gets 6, but it has a percentage chance of working and it will lose 6 otherwise. I would actually advise not to do hugs, because if you do the maths behind it, suppose you have a 50-50 chance of winning. That means that in theory, you could just keep doing hugs and it wouldn't make any difference to anything. But all the meanwhile, you're spending 3 affection points. And being as this is a 1-to-1, this means that it's actually not gain 6 or lose 6. It's gain 3 or lose 9. Because you're spending 3 affection points, which is equivalent to 3 affection rating anyway. So you really need to have a high percentage chance here for hugs to be even worth doing. And by the time you get to that stage, you probably want to be saving your affection points for other things anyway. Finally, we also have cheer up, which adds 3 affection rating and reduces any work injury for this particular card. No, it's the card, not the character this time, by 5 days. And that's going to cost quite a lot of affection points. Of course, injuries you get from work. We did a video on work last time, so feel free to check that out. But yeah, reducing injuries from work is pretty helpful. And then finally we have action 4 at the back here, if it wants to show it to me, which it apparently doesn't, so we're going to type the command again. Command doesn't last too long. And we go to number 4, which is confess love. This requires you to have a confession, which you have to buy with gems, I believe. But if you do have one, permanently increases maximum energy to 10. And immediately replenishes 5 energy, can only be used once per character. So yeah, that's kind of a speed up through the affection progression there if you want it, but you can quite easily do it without, so I wouldn't advise getting that one. Finally, we have the dating minigame. I will be doing a separate video on the dating minigame in another video, because it is reasonably complicated and certainly deserves a video in of itself. But what I will tell you is that it's a minigame pretty much, in which you try and simulate a date and have to keep up resources like food and drink and whatever in order to complete the date with a set amount of time. Rewards for doing that will get you some affection rating, some affection points, and as I mentioned, once you hit 80, you have to have a successful date in order to go any higher. So dating is something that you will be doing later on once you get closer to 80. The same way that hugs work is that it has a percentage chance of being accepted, and the higher your affection rating is, the more likely the date is accepted. Once you hit 80 affection rating, both hugs and dates have an 100% chance of working. There's also a couple of actions that I couldn't show you on Miano because you only unlock them when you have a high enough affection rating. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my Ryuzu here, who has much higher affection rating. We're going to visit her. As it says, once again, we're currently visiting Miano. We can swap every 2 hours, so I'm going to visit Ryuzu here, and you can see my affection rating and affection points are a fair bit higher. If I now go into actions, instead of 4, there is 6. Because we have the extra hold hand and kiss actions. Hold hand adds a small amount of affection rating and takes up affection points. This one, not so great. It's clearly worse than the compliment that it has replaced, so that's not great, but oh well. Hug also gets a bit of a debuff here, only gaining a small amount of affection rating here. Very high percentage chance, sure, but yeah, not adding much, so again, not worth doing. Both of these values, by the way, are just based off your current affection rating. The higher your affection rating goes, the lower these two are going to get. And the same with Kiss here, which is again, gain affection rating at a certain percentage chance. And then this costs a little bit more. So Kiss is pretty much the same as Hug, but you get more affection rating at a lower percentage chance. Then if we go onto the next page, We also have Ignore, which is kind of an interesting one. This increases the toughness modifier by 1 grade. If you're not sure about toughness modifiers, what I can show you is the worker info here, which has all of these stats. For Ryuzu, they're pretty low because my Ryuzu is not a good quality card, unfortunately. But we have toughness here, and we can up this by using Ignore. It is going to cost us a hefty 80 affection points, but if we use it, toughness modifier goes up by 1 grade, and so once you've used it, I mean, around 5 times, the toughness is going to be pretty high, and that's going to increase your total effort value, which is quite nice. This doesn't actually negatively affect the affection system in any way, so there's no reason not to use it if you have enough spare affection points, and if you are planning on using the card in your job board, which is why it's good to get affection on your job board characters, because you can go for the Ignore and you can get that extra stat, which is quite nice. Now, as I pointed out, there are different actions available for when you're enamored and when you are friendly. I do not think there's any unique actions for when you are below friendly. I can't remember, to be perfectly honest, and I can't check now because I just changed it. But if they are, they will go by the same principles, and it should be reasonably easy to figure out. So for the most part, the whole visit and affection system here is just to gain affection rating and gain affection points. You can use this for ignoring if you're going for workers, and you can use it for just fun stuff if not. However, there is one more advantage of the affection system, which is Koibitos. I mentioned these earlier. Each card has 1 Koibito, well, each character rather has 1 Koibito, and this is a global thing. So there is a Ryuzu Koibito, for instance. I could search, I believe, K leaderboard, and I could put Ryuzu Bilma in here, and it is going to tell me the people in the world that have the highest affection rating with Ryuzu. We have in number 2 here, this means that that is their Koibito. Actually not the highest one, so potentially this one is going to try and snipe the Koibito from them at some point. That would be good fun, wouldn't it? And there's actually me in 3rd, which is pretty fantastic on that particular leaderboard. I have myself a ton of affection points, and once I get round to it, I may try and snipe this Koibito. In fact, that would be good fun. There are a few benefits to Koibito. I'm not going to go over them too much now because there is quite a lot of them, and I probably will do a separate video, to be perfectly honest. But for the most part, you can do things like aliases. You can one of the big ones is that you can visit a card that you haven't grabbed. This is pretty important because I don't know if you maybe hadn't noticed, but you can only visit cards that you have grabbed. Now, I maybe should have mentioned this at the start of the video. But so, for example, I can visit my Ryuzu here because I grabbed this card. But if I have a look at my Rem, for instance, if I have a look here, my Rem, I can try and visit Rem, and it's going to tell me that I can't, because I have to be a Koibito or a grabber of that card. Now, of course, I can't become a Koibito of Rem without first grabbing a Rem card. But what this means is I could become the Koibito for Ryuzu, for instance, and then I can visit any card of Ryuzu's. This means that some people will try and use Koibitos to make some money and say, okay, you give me your Ryuzu cards and I will visit them and maybe fix up their injuries or something like that, and charge something for that kind of service. If the person that owns the card can't visit them either, because they are also not the grabber. Because there is only 1 Koibito globally, there is only 1 person that can give this service, which means that Koibitos in general is pretty profitable business. You later on are going to want to get yourself a Koibito or 2 for a potentially popular character, because they are kind of helpful. But of course, going for a Koibito on someone like Rem is going to be very competitive, I'm sure. We can have a look, if you like, on the leaderboard for Rem, see how many people there are. going for the Koibito on there. Well, as you can see already, we've got 10 people above 180 AR. We've got the Koibito here in third, and some people have got quite a few affection points. So you can see that this leaderboard is heavily contested in comparison with the little Ryuzu leaderboard here, where you only need 30 affection rating to even get on the top 10. Makes it a lot easier, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, if you can get a popular character like Rem as your Koibito, that is going to be a lot of stonks for you, which is pretty nice. But yeah, anyway, I think that's pretty much everything for the affection system and visits. Like I said, I will do separate videos on the dating minigame and also on the benefits of having Koibitos, because they are generally pretty wide topics. If I can remember after I've made the videos, I will add the links in the description. If not, feel free to remind me in the comments section and I can sort it out at that point. But for now, I will leave this video here. Bye!